Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend, and it's already time to start thinking about the next holiday, which brings me to, we offer holiday cookies, $19.99 per dozen. They're chocolate, peanut butter, dried fruit, no-bake cookies. They're fabulous. People love them, individually wrapped in lovely gift boxes. We ship them any place in the United States for $19.99 per dozen. That includes the freight. Okay, so you can just call our office at 614-841-7700 to order cookies. They are delicious, and the more cookies you order, the fewer cookies I eat, because when they're sitting around here, they just look way too good, right? Remember, we also post on BitChute and Parler, so if there's any change to this channel, you'll know where to find us. And we also post the Forbidden video on our website at WellnessForumHealth.com. And the Forbidden newsletter goes out on Monday. So to get access to the newsletter, you have to subscribe, and you can do that by emailing me at pampopper@msn.com. I have to say that after last week's video with Schroeder, I know I messed up the picture share, and me and technology, right? But the next day, I actually had the actual cat, which turned out to be much better than just the pictures of the cat. And Schroeder got like several hundred fan mails. So I tell him every day he's a famous cat. I think he's pretty special, but apparently a lot of other people thought he was pretty special too. And I have to tell you, he does that business with putting his paws around my neck. He actually pets my hair in my face. And so many of you actually have requested more videos with Schroeder, and I promise I'll do some more at home, and I will include the cat because he's a lot cuter than I am. And he likes being a celebrity kitty. So thank you for all your kind comments. I'm sure to really appreciate your supportive emails. Reminder, the COVID-19 COVID operation book is available. Amazon took it off of the ebook. You can't get it on Kindle anymore, but we have a one-time download available on our website at WellnessForumHealth.com. You can get it there. And if you want autographed copies, we have them here. We sell them out pretty fast. We get them as fast as we can, and they go out as fast as we get them, but you can get signed copies by emailing us here. And one other thing, winter semester calendar is posted at WellnessForumInstitute.com. And this is the time to start thinking about changes of career. So we have an alternative to traditional dietetics, and we also have programs for people who are already healthcare professionals and want to transition to doing something different. We have programs for people who are not healthcare professionals and they're saying, I want to do my part to help people with informed decision making and get out of the business I'm in and into helping people. So send me an email at pampopper@msn.com. I'm happy to have conversation with you and help you sort out what you want to do and how you want to do it and all that good stuff, okay? So some of you know that Dr. David Katz spoke at our conference here in Columbus not too long ago. And many people had written to me in advance and said, you and David Katz are at opposite ends of the spectrum on some issues, so I can't understand why you would have him speak at your conference. And I've said this many times, I'm not looking for people that agree with me on everything. We should be able to have dialogue with people who don't agree with us on everything specifically, right? The second thing is that the only way that we're ever going to figure stuff out in this country is if people who don't agree on some things begin to talk to each other. And when I introduced Dr. Katz, I said that, I felt that he's the grown-up in the room, capable of looking at both sides of an issue. So I wanted to share with you, he wrote, he has this regular column called Preventive Medicine column, and then he also posts some articles on LinkedIn and that sort of thing. So the information I'm going to share with you is a combination of two, his preventive medicine column and some excerpts from another article that he posted about his experience here and what he thought about it. And I think you'll understand what I'm talking about Dr. Katz and his ability to see both sides of an issue, and my ability to see his point of view as well. So he says, I was recently in Ohio to speak at a wellness conference and got an earful about the blunt instrument of government action, the heavy hand of indiscriminate policy, and the general opacity in policymaking that denies the public access to the data on which their elected officials were basing their decisions. Apparently, innumerable communities all around the country harbor these same sentiments. That said, it is not the topic of my presentation that inspires this column, but rather the venue. I'll avoid details for the sake of all concerned, but let's just note that the terms agreed to in advance allowed for social distancing and mask use. The reality proved to be a packed conference room, no distancing, and I, the only one in the entire assembly with a mask. Well, actually, one fellow speaker, a colleague from California, had one as well, but he seemed inclined to meet the gathering halfway and wore it as a chin strap. Was this group oblivious or ignorant? Not at all. They were well-informed wellness enthusiasts and generally highly educated, including some number of PhD scientists and attorneys in the mix. Nor was there anything very unique about this gathering in Ohio. I heard from a correspondent in Washington State about much the same inclination there, and from a colleague now in Oklahoma from a member of the Hasidic Jewish community in New York. What is going on? Partly, these are the dire consequences of life in the post-truth era these past 4 years have fomented. When lies and truth compete for attention on a playing field that does no screening at the gate, truth often loses and trust always does. Public health runs on the concept of common interests and public good, and these in turn require trust and shared means to be desired ends. Absent trust, the house divides into ruin. And so I think this is a remarkable recognition of what we've been complaining about, which is not lack of transparency and pretty strong suspicion of wrongdoing. But there is, I believe, more. I got an earful in Ohio about the blunt instrument of government action, the heavy hand of indiscriminate policy, and the general opacity in policymaking that denies the public access. So he went into this actually in his other column as well, his preventive medicine column. He says, we could debate the legitimacy of such sentiments, but to what end? Ethics tells us my right to swing a stick ends where your nose begins, but the friction I saw was not about any one nose out of joint or stick out of place. It was an entire community of noses in agreement about the threat of swinging sticks from without. People feel as they do, and if we're to fare any better through what lies ahead, we must find some way to do so together. So, and this is something that's an ongoing theme in Dr. Katz's column, is the fact that you can't have these polarized ends. You have to come together, and that's what I've been complaining about too. The problem here, he says, is elaborated by Cass Sunstein in Going to Extremes, expressed in Newton's third law: for every action, an equal and opposite reaction. If we view lock it down as the favored public health action to address the pandemic, liberate it all is the opposing reaction, and perhaps as inevitable as inertia. Certainly so in a world without trust to manage human momentum. And I think it's remarkable that he's acknowledging the fact that the trust is an issue, which recalls to me the position I took in those seeming lifetimes ago when the pandemic was new. Total harm minimization based on risk stratified policies. Let everyone know that you hear them. Let everyone know you care. Let everyone know that any way the pandemic hurts them is bad. Any way we can avoid such harm is good. An acknowledgement that the collateral damage can be as damaging, maybe more so than the virus itself. Maybe total harm minimization sounds radical when dealing with a virus that can kill, but here too, our inconsistency is glaring. Heart disease kills over 650,000 people a year in the United States, nearly all of them prematurely, and dramatically so in many cases, cutting life short by years or even decades. These deaths are the unnecessary consequence of a culture that often favors corporate profit over public health. These deaths are preventable. Why then no unified outrage in response to these deaths? It's simply that even for our most august public health champions, familiarity breeds contempt. Perhaps you will note that we can transmit SARS-CoV-2 to an innocent bystander, but we cannot transmit heart disease or diabetes. I beg to differ, Dr. Katz says. The distinction is just the medium of transmission. SARS-CoV-2 rides in water droplets and vapor. Heart disease and diabetes ride the memes and marketing collateral of culture. Studies tell us of the propagation of obesity and chronic disease in social networks, presumably via memes, social norms, and the native human inclination to fit in. And they kill. They kill with indemnity. They kill at a scale far greater than even the worst case projections for the pandemic, and they do it year in and year out. It will not end. There is no vaccine. They fill up hospital beds. They strain the ranks of health professionals. They encounter our complacency and arguably even our contempt. Perhaps the calls to protect every last one of us from COVID would garner more consistent support If the implied sanctity of life were not quite so condition specific and did not seem so arbitrary, your death by COVID is a national calamity. Your death by heart disease, stroke, diabetes, just another day of good business as usual in America. Any end to the pandemic will be better than none, but if we never find a way to see a common view of it, the tragic loss of life will be much compounded by the ravages of discord and distrust among the living. The injury of our losses will be demeaned and the insults we direct at one another. My hope for it dims by the day, but there is a bigger view and a better way forward than action and opposing reaction. And so a lot of times when I see articles like this, I'll just kind of pick excerpts, but I wanted to read you the entirety of this article, actually the combination of the two articles, because I think it is so important to see the broader picture and the point of view that Dr. Katz is expressing. And I think that it accurately reflected what he saw here, our conversations here. I sent him an email after he emailed me this, and I thanked him for this. I said, thank you for your fair and balanced approach to what you saw here and what you encountered here and what you heard here. I would have expected no less from the grown-up in the room. And I've also said, I've said this publicly many times, we don't agree on everything. However, having said that, I think that this approach that I just expressed to you shows such a remarkable ability to engage in reasonable discussion that I am fairly positive, I'm almost certain in fact, that if Dr. Katz were in charge of public health in Ohio, I'm sure I wouldn't love everything he does, but I sure would try really hard to adhere to the guidelines he would establish, because I think they would not be unreasonable. And I reiterated that thought in my email back to him, and he said, I'm sorry, as awful as it would be to be in that position right now, he does wish he had more influence, and I think a lot of people feel that way. So anyway, not always in agreement about everything, but always able to talk about it. And I think that's what we need to endeavor to do more of. Find people we disagree with and have conversation with them, and be able to observe each other's opinions and points of view this way. So I thought you would, if you were at our conference, I'm sure you would appreciate hearing this. And if you were not at our conference, I hope that this helps you understand why Dr. Katz was an invited speaker. We can all learn from each other if we just try. Thanks for watching. Pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy learning more about what's really going on here, and I'll be back to you tomorrow with more news.